That's savagery! The extraterrestrial woman cried out as the Terran manually repositioned her fractured limb. The crimson giant sun of Kepler. 22B cast blood-red shadows through the cavern opening, highlighting the jagged obsidian structures jutting from the walls. Commander Marcus Webb brushed perspiration from his forehead, his combat-scarred exosuit catching the fading light as he evaluated their predicament. The collision had been catastrophic, their survival capsule reduced to scattered debris across the planet's volcanic terrain. His partner, Commander Lyra Nightshade of the Stellar Imperium, rested against a polished stone surface. Her midnight blue hair was tangled with volcanic ash, and her typically immaculate armor showed multiple fractures. Her left leg twisted unnaturally, and her violet eyes blazed with agony. "Retrieve the emergency supplies," she demanded through gritted teeth, her pearl-white complexion even paler than normal. "Surely your equipment contains sophisticated tissue regenerators." Marcus dragged his fingers through his long auburn hair, his full beard barely concealing the wince on his features. "Apologies, Your Highness. The medical supplies were in the capsule section currently scattered across the canyon below. We'll need to handle this using traditional methods." Lyra's eyes expanded as Marcus knelt beside her. "What do you mean by traditional methods? You cannot possibly be implying—" "That's precisely what I'm implying." He positioned himself deliberately, powerful hands securing her limb. "This will be excruciating, but it must be completed before inflammation worsens." "No, that's completely uncivilized. There must be an alternative. Ah!" Her shriek reverberated through the cavern as Marcus executed a rapid, calculated maneuver, forcing the bone into proper alignment. The sound of the correction made him flinch, but he understood its necessity. "This is savagery!" she shouted, gasping heavily, her violet eyes blazing with rage. You uncultured brute!" She halted mid-sentence, shock replacing fury as she cautiously tested her leg. The unbearable pain had already diminished to a manageable ache. Marcus reclined, wiping his soiled, lacerated hands on his trousers. "Welcome to reality," he said with a slight grin. "Occasionally, traditional approaches prove most effective." Lyra observed him, her chest still rising rapidly from the trauma. She'd consistently regarded Terrans as crude, unsophisticated beings who depended excessively on brute strength. Yet there was something captivating about their unrefined efficiency, their capability to produce results without relying on advanced machinery. "My gratitude," she murmured, surprising herself with the genuineness in her tone. Marcus stood and offered his hand to assist her upward. Their gazes locked, and for an instant, time appeared to freeze. She found herself noticing details she'd previously ignored. The wisdom behind his amber eyes, the assured set of his chin, the deliberate tenderness of his grip despite his evident power. "Can you rise?" he inquired, his voice gentler than before. She tested her weight cautiously, gripping his forearm for stability. "Yes, I believe so. Though I fail to comprehend how your crude technique functioned so rapidly." "Occasionally, the most straightforward solution proves optimal," he responded, still steadying her as she took an experimental step. "We Terrans mastered treating injuries long before possessing sophisticated medical technology. Necessity demanded it. We're quite proficient at creating difficulties for ourselves. That much is evident," she said with a modest smile, then grimaced as she applied excessive pressure on her leg. "Carefully," Marcus cautioned, his arm reflexively tightening around her midsection. "We should remain here overnight. The predators on this world are primarily nocturnal, so we'll be more secure in the cavern until sunrise. As the tempest outside intensified, Marcus and Lyra were compelled to venture deeper into the cavern network. The obsidian formations cast dancing shadows from their portable illumination, creating an almost supernatural atmosphere. The temperature rose as they descended, a stark contrast to the howling gales above. The thermal change is peculiar, Lyra observed, her violet eyes reflecting the light as she examined the cavern walls. These formations, they're artificial. Marcus nodded, supporting her as they carefully navigated down a smooth incline. Someone or something excavated these passages. The question is when. Their answer materialized in ancient inscriptions etched into the walls. Upon closer examination, they discovered these weren't random markings. They were a primitive writing system accompanied by crude illustrations. "Observe this," Marcus said, his fingers following the outline of what resembled a spacecraft, different from their own destroyed vessel. "We're not the first to seek refuge here." Lyra leaned nearer, her midnight blue hair brushing against his shoulder. The contact sent an unexpected tremor through both of them. These inscriptions suggest multiple collisions across different eras. This location must interfere with navigation systems somehow. They continued deeper, the passage opening into a massive chamber. The sight before them caused both to pause. Scattered throughout the space were remnants of various crashed vessels, some ancient, others more recent. But what captured their attention were the improvised living spaces that had been established. Some survived here for considerable periods, Marcus observed, examining the crude but functional tools and furniture fashioned from spacecraft wreckage. Lyra's eyes fell upon a collection of personal journals, some written on salvaged materials, others carved into the walls. "Not all escaped," she said softly, reading the final entries of those who'd perished. The gravity of their circumstances settled over them. They were trapped, injured, with minimal supplies, in a place that had claimed numerous lives before theirs. The realization drew them closer together, both physically and emotionally. As they established their own temporary base, Lyra found herself increasingly conscious of Marcus's presence, the way he moved, the strength in his hands as he arranged their meager provisions, the intelligence in his eyes as he evaluated their situation. It all stirred something primal within her. "You're observing me," he said with a slight smirk, catching her stare. "I'm analyzing," she corrected, but a faint flush colored her pale cheeks. "Your species continues to intrigue me. You're so unpolished, unrefined, yet remarkably effective." Marcus sat beside her, close enough that she could feel the warmth emanating from his body. "We're survivors. We adapt. We overcome. It's our specialty." "Yes, I'm beginning to comprehend that," she replied, her voice softer than usual. "Your techniques may seem savage initially, but there's an undeniable appeal to them." The air between them grew charged with unspoken tension. Marcus reached out, brushing a strand of blue hair from her face. The simple touch sent electricity through both of them. "Appeal?" he questioned, his voice rough with emotion. Lyra's violet eyes met his, filled with a mixture of curiosity and desire. "Yes, you Terrans, you experience everything so intensely. You don't hide behind machinery or regulations. You're authentic, unrefined, savage perhaps, but in the most fascinating manner." Their faces drew closer, the warmth of their breath mingling in the space between them. The cavern's ambient warmth seemed to increase, matching the heat building between them. Savage isn't necessarily negative, Marcus murmured, his hand cupping her face. What followed was an exploration of the most fundamental, primal form of connection, one that transcended species and cultural barriers. Their coming together was as natural as breathing, as inevitable as gravity itself. Later, as they lay together on their improvised bed, Lyra traced the scars on Marcus's armor with gentle fingers. I never understood before, she whispered, why Terrans place such emphasis on physical connection. But now, Marcus pulled her closer, his arms protective around her. Sometimes traditional approaches are optimal, he said with a smile, echoing his earlier words. Perhaps, she agreed, nestling against him, though I still maintain that bone repositioning technique was savage. Their laughter echoed through the chamber, a sound of joy and life in a place that had known too much death. Outside, the storm continued to rage, but within their sanctuary, they had found something unexpected, a connection that bridged the gap between their worlds. The next morning brought a different kind of tension to their cavern sanctuary. While exploring the ancient wreckage more thoroughly, Marcus discovered something that made his pulse race. A remarkably well-preserved emergency transmitter, its energy core still humming with residual power. This could be our escape route, he said carefully, extracting the device from its housing. The transmitter's casing bore markings similar to those they'd seen on the cavern walls, suggesting it belonged to a civilization far more advanced than either of theirs. Lyra examined it with professional interest, her violet eyes reflecting the device's faint glow. The technology is ancient, but the energy source appears stable. However, she bit her lower lip, a gesture Marcus had come to find endearing. The signal it broadcasts might attract more than just rescue vessels. Their eyes met, the previous night's intimacy adding new layers to their silent communication. The cavern's warmth seemed to intensify around them as Marcus stepped closer, his hand brushing against hers as he took the transmitter. Sometimes we must take risks, he said, his voice carrying that rough edge that made her pulse quicken. It's the Terran way. Yes, I'm becoming quite familiar with your Terran ways, she replied, a knowing smile playing at her lips. The memory of their shared passion colored her pale cheeks with a subtle flush. Marcus grinned, but kept his focus on the task at hand. The transmitter's range is impressive. If we can amplify its power, we might reach the nearest station before anything else detects the signal. Working together, they began modifying the device, combining Marcus's practical ingenuity with Lyra's technical knowledge. Their hands brushed frequently as they worked, each contact sending sparks of electricity through them both. Your approach to technology is fascinating, Lyra observed, watching him jury-rig a power coupling using salvage parts. So unconventional, yet effective. Like everything else about you Terrans. We improvise with what we have, he replied, his fingers skillfully manipulating the delicate components. It's not always elegant, but it functions. Like manually repositioning a fractured bone, she teased, rubbing her healed leg meaningfully. Marcus paused his work to look at her, his eyes dark with remembered passion. Precisely like that. Sometimes the direct approach is optimal. The air between them crackled with tension again, but before they could act on it, the transmitter suddenly hummed to life, its signal pulsing strongly through the cavern system. It's functioning, Lyra exclaimed, but her celebration was cut short by an ominous rumbling from deep within the cavern. Marcus's expression turned serious, and we're not the only ones who noticed. He quickly gathered their essential supplies, his movements efficient and purposeful. We need to relocate now. The signal's already transmitted, Lyra said, helping him pack. Whatever's approaching will find us whether we stay or go. True, Marcus agreed, checking his weapon. But I'd rather confront it on our terms than be cornered in here. They made their way toward the cavern's upper levels, their progress slowed by Lyra's healing leg. The rumbling grew louder, accompanied by strange, chittering sounds that echoed through the passages. Any hypotheses about what we're facing? Marcus asked, supporting her as they climbed. Several, she replied, her voice steady despite their situation. None pleasant. This planet's deep cavern systems are largely unexplored for good reason. They reached a defensible position just as the first wave of creatures emerged from the darkness. Arthropod beings with obsidian exoskeletons that reflected their light source in dazzling, disorienting patterns. Well, that's novel, Marcus muttered, positioning himself protectively in front of Lyra. She pulled him back, standing beside him instead. We face this together, she said firmly. I may not be as physically robust as you Terrans, but I'm not helpless. Marcus nodded, a fierce pride swelling in his chest. This was why he'd fallen for her. Her strength matched his own, just in different ways. The creatures advanced, their obsidian bodies creating a hypnotic light show that made targeting difficult. Marcus and Lyra stood back to back, weapons ready, their bodies moving in perfect sync. A dance they'd perfected in more intimate moments, now serving them in combat. The obsidian creatures retreated as suddenly as they had appeared, driven back by a new sound that echoed through the cavern system. The unmistakable hum of approaching spacecraft engines. Marcus and Lyra shared a brief moment of relief before reality set in. That response was too rapid, Lyra said, her violet eyes narrowing as she studied the cavern entrance. No legitimate rescue vessel could have reached us this quickly. Marcus checked his weapons charge. Raiders, he confirmed grimly, probably monitoring emergency frequencies, waiting to prey on stranded ships and survivors. The sound of multiple ships landing outside filled the cavern. Lyra pressed closer to Marcus, her body fitting perfectly against his, as they took cover behind an obsidian formation. The intimate contact reminded them both of their recent passionate encounters, adding an electric undercurrent to their already tense situation. Any suggestions? She whispered, her breath warm against his ear. We've got the advantage of position and knowledge, he replied, his hand unconsciously tracing a protective pattern on her lower back. They don't know about the creatures or the cavern system's layout. Heavy footsteps and rough voices echoed from the entrance. Scanner shows 2 life signs, a gruff voice called out. 1 Terran, 1 Stellar. Valuable merchandise, both of them. Lyra's lip curled in disgust. Slavers, she spat quietly, the lowest form of space scum. Marcus's expression hardened, his protective instincts flaring. They're not taking either of us, he growled, the possessive tone in his voice sending shivers down Lyra's spine. They retreated deeper into the cavern system, using their knowledge of the terrain to stay ahead of their pursuers. The raiders had split into smaller groups, making themselves vulnerable to ambush. Your crude combat training might actually prove useful here, Lyra admitted as they prepared to spring their first trap. The way she said crude had changed. What was once an insult had become almost an endearment. Just remember what I taught you about hand-to-hand combat, Marcus replied with a roguish grin. Sometimes traditional approaches prove most effective. Their first ambush was perfectly executed. Marcus's raw strength, combined with Lyra's precise movements, made them a devastating team. The raiders, expecting easy prey, found themselves outmatched by the unlikely pair. Between skirmishes, they found moments of unexpected intimacy. The adrenaline of combat, the trust they'd built, and their growing feelings created an intoxicating mixture. During one such moment, hidden in a small alcove while raiders passed nearby, Lyra turned to Marcus with fire in her violet eyes. I never understood Terran attraction to danger until now, she whispered, her fingers tracing the fresh scratches on his armor. Everything about you is so intense, so alive. Marcus pulled her closer, his heart racing for more than just combat. We Terrans do tend to live in the moment, he murmured against her hair, especially when we have something worth fighting for. Their moment was interrupted by approaching footsteps, but the connection between them had grown stronger. Each fight brought them closer together, their movements becoming more synchronized, their understanding of each other deepening. As they eliminated another group of raiders, Lyra watched Marcus in action, marveling at the raw grace of his combat style. What she had once dismissed as crude now fascinated her, the way he combined strength with strategy, brutality with precision. You're observing me again, he teased as they caught their breath after the fight. I'm appreciating, she corrected, moving closer to him. The way you fight, it's like a dance. Savage, yes, but beautiful in its own way. Their eyes met, and the heat between them blazed higher, the danger around them only intensifying their connection, making every touch, every shared glance more meaningful. We should keep moving, Marcus said reluctantly, but his hands lingered on her waist. Yes, we should, Lyra agreed, making no move to step away. The raiders will be getting desperate now. Indeed, the remaining raiders had regrouped and were becoming more cautious, more dangerous. But Marcus and Lyra had found something in each other that made them stronger together than apart. Whatever happens, Lyra said as they prepared to face the final group, I'm glad it was you who found me in that crash. Marcus smiled, the expression fierce and tender at once. Even with my savage bone repositioning techniques? Especially because of those, she replied, returning his smile. Sometimes the direct approach is exactly what's needed. The Raider flagship came into view as Marcus and Lyra reached a higher vantage point in the cavern system. What they saw made them both freeze. It wasn't the typical cobbled-together vessel favored by space raiders, but a sleek, military-grade cruiser with advanced stealth capabilities. That's a Phantom-class battleship, Lyra whispered, her violet eyes wide. Those aren't even in production yet. They're still in the experimental phase at the Stellar Imperium's top-secret facilities. Marcus's jaw tightened. Someone's backing these raiders, someone with serious resources and connections. They retreated to a secure alcove to strategize. The cavern's warmth seemed to intensify their awareness of each other as they huddled close, examining the crude map they'd drawn of the cavern system. The ship's security systems will be state-of-the-art, Lyra said, her fingers brushing against Marcus's as she traced potential approach routes. But they won't expect us to use crude methods. Marcus caught her hand, a mischievous glint in his eyes. Crude, huh? Like manually repositioning bones? Precisely, she replied, her pale skin flushing at his touch. Sometimes traditional approaches are the most effective. Your Terran methods might be our best advantage. Their planning session was interrupted by the sound of advanced scanning equipment. The raiders were using cutting-edge technology to map the cavern system. We need to relocate, Marcus said, but before they could, Lyra pulled him into a hidden crevice as a patrol passed nearby. The tight space forced them close together, their bodies pressed against each other in the darkness. Lyra's breath hitched as Marcus's hand steadied her, his touch sending electricity through her body. "Your heart's racing," he whispered, his lips close to her ear. "Danger does that," she replied softly, though they both knew it wasn't just the threat of discovery causing her pulse to quicken. Once the patrol passed, they began implementing their plan, using Marcus's knowledge of old-school military tactics and Lyra's understanding of advanced technology. They started systematically sabotaging the raiders' equipment. Between missions, they found moments of intense connection. The constant danger, the trust they'd built, and their growing feelings created an intoxicating mixture that made every touch, every shared glance more meaningful. During one such moment, as they celebrated disabling another scanner array, Lyra studied Marcus with newfound appreciation. "You Terrans are remarkable," she said, running her fingers along his jaw. "You adapt so quickly, find solutions in the most unexpected places. It's inspiring." Marcus caught her hand, pressing a kiss to her palm. "We're survivors. It's what we do best." Their intimate moment was interrupted by an explosion that rocked the cavern system. The raiders had grown desperate, using plasma charges to flush them out. "They're getting reckless," Marcus growled, pulling Lyra behind an obsidian formation as debris rained down. "They're scared," she replied, her violet eyes bright with excitement. They expected easy prey, but found something else entirely. The battle that followed was intense, with Marcus and Lyra working in perfect synchronization. His raw strength and combat instincts complemented her technical knowledge and precise movements. What had started as an unlikely partnership had evolved into something powerful and unique. Between skirmishes, they found shelter in a small chamber illuminated by bioluminescent crystals. The soft light painted patterns across Lyra's pale skin as she tended to a cut on Marcus's arm. "Your methods of combat are as savage as your medical techniques," she teased, cleaning the wound with gentle fingers. "But equally effective," he replied, catching her hand and pulling her closer. "Admit it. You're starting to appreciate the Terran way of doing things." Their eyes met, and the tension between them peaked, the danger around them only intensifying their connection, making every moment more precious. "I appreciate many things about Terrans now," Lyra whispered, her fingers tracing the contours of his face. "Your strength, your determination, your passion." Their moment was interrupted by the sound of approaching footsteps, but the connection between them had grown stronger. Each challenge they faced together deepened their bond, their understanding of each other evolving into something neither had expected. While monitoring the raiders' communications from their hidden vantage point, Marcus and Lyra intercepted a coded transmission that changed everything. After Lyra decrypted it using her Stellar Imperium training, their eyes met in shared understanding. "They're not here for salvage," she whispered, her violet eyes reflecting the dim light of their makeshift command center. "They're searching for something specific, ancient technology hidden deep in these caverns." Marcus studied the decoded message, his arm unconsciously wrapping around Lyra's waist. "And look at this. A Stellar Imperium rescue vessel is responding to our transmitter. ETA 6 hours. 6 hours to survive, Lyra mused, leaning into his embrace. And to figure out what's so valuable that someone would outfit raiders with experimental military technology to find it. Their closeness in that moment felt natural, inevitable. The cavern's warmth seemed to pulse around them, matching the rhythm of their hearts. Marcus's fingers traced idle patterns on her hip as they studied the data. The raiders' scan patterns are concentrated in the lower levels, he observed, his voice rougher than usual. Whatever they're looking for, it's down there. Lyra turned in his arms, her pale skin luminescent in the crystal-reflected light. We should investigate before the rescue ship arrives, if this technology is as important as they think. It's dangerous, Marcus cautioned, though his eyes betrayed his excitement at the prospect of action. More dangerous than manually repositioning bones, she teased, her fingers trailing along his chest plate. I think I can handle your Terran brand of danger now. Their exploration of the lower caverns revealed ancient machinery integrated with the obsidian formations. As they documented their findings, they had to repeatedly dodge raider patrols, leading to several close encounters that left them pressed together in hidden alcoves, their bodies flush against each other, breath mingling in the darkness. During one such moment, Lyra whispered, "Your heart's pounding." "Adrenaline," Marcus replied with a roguish grin, though they both knew it wasn't just the danger causing their pulses to race. The ancient technology they discovered appeared to be a planetary defense system capable of controlling the obsidian creatures they'd encountered earlier. The raiders' backers wanted to weaponize it. This could shift the balance of power in the entire sector, Lyra said, her fingers flying over the control interface. We can't let them have it. Then we won't, Marcus replied simply, his confidence making her smile. Terran determination, so straightforward, so effective. As they worked to secure the facility, the rescue ship's approach added urgency to their mission. The raiders, realizing their time was running out, became more aggressive. During a particularly intense firefight, Marcus pulled Lyra behind an obsidian formation just as a plasma bolt scorched the air where she'd been standing. The momentum brought their bodies together, and for a moment, the battle faded away as their eyes met. My savage Terran keeps saving my life, she murmured, her hands gripping his armor. Getting used to it, he asked, his voice husky with more than just battle tension. Getting addicted to it, she admitted, and the heat between them blazed higher. Their moment was interrupted by the sound of heavy weapons charging, but their connection had grown stronger. Each shared danger, each moment of trust and protection deepened their bond into something neither had expected to find in these caverns. Working together, they managed to activate the ancient system's security protocols, turning the obsidian creatures against the raiders. The timing was perfect. The Stellar Imperium rescue ship entered orbit, just as the raiders were forced to retreat. In the chaos of evacuation, as they prepared to board the rescue ship, Lyra pulled Marcus into one final hidden alcove. The crystal light painted patterns across their skin as she pressed close to him. When we get out of here, she whispered, her violet eyes intense, I want to explore more of your crude Terran ways. Marcus's response was cut off by the sound of approaching rescuers, but his eyes promised everything she was asking for and more. The rescue ship's medical bay hummed with advanced technology, but something far more extraordinary was happening to Marcus and Lyra. The ancient obsidian technology from the caverns had left its mark on them both, literally. Iridescent patterns traced their skin like luminous tattoos, pulsing in sync with their heartbeats. Fascinating, the ship's chief medical officer muttered, scanning them for the third time. The crystalline structures have integrated with your cellular matrix. It's creating some sort of symbiotic relationship. Marcus flexed his hand, watching the pattern shimmer. We can sense it. The crystals, they're alive, conscious, and connected. And connected to each other, Lyra added, her violet eyes meeting Marcus's. They didn't need to explain how they could sense each other's presence, emotions, even thoughts. The bond that had begun in those caverns had evolved into something unprecedented. The ship's commander, Admiral Kovac, arrived with news that made their unique condition even more significant. We're forming a joint Terran-Stellar task force to investigate similar ancient technologies. Given your unique situation, you'd be ideal candidates. Alone in their assigned quarters later, Marcus and Lyra explored their new abilities. The obsidian patterns brightened when they touched, their enhanced connection making every contact more intense, more intimate. Your savage bone repositioning seems rather tame now, Lyra teased, tracing the glowing patterns on Marcus's chest, compared to being bonded with alien crystals. Still got your attention, though, he replied, pulling her closer. The obsidian patterns on their skin pulsed brighter, their shared emotions amplified through their connection. Their training for the task force began immediately. They discovered their crystal bond enhanced their combat abilities, perfect synchronization, shared awareness, increased strength and speed. But it was the quieter moments that truly revealed the depth of their connection. During a meditation session designed to help them control their new abilities, their minds merged more completely than ever before. Thoughts, memories, and emotions flowed between them like water. "This is incredible," Lyra whispered, both aloud and in their shared consciousness. "I can feel everything you feel, see everything you see." Marcus's response carried through their bond, thick with emotion, including how much I love you. The obsidian patterns flared brilliantly at his admission, their hearts beating in perfect synchronization. Their subsequent joining was both physical and spiritual, their enhanced connection making it an experience beyond anything either had imagined possible. Later, as they lay together, the obsidian patterns on their skin creating beautiful light shows. Lyra traced the scars on Marcus's chest. "You Terrans never cease to amaze me," she said. "You take everything, even bonding with ancient alien technology, and make it something beautiful." "We adapt," he said, running his fingers through her midnight blue hair. "It's what we do best. Though I have to admit, this particular adaptation is my favorite so far." Their moment of peace was interrupted by an urgent summons from Admiral Kovac. Their first mission as part of the task force would begin immediately. Reports of similar obsidian technology had been discovered on 3 other worlds. As they suited up for the mission, their movements perfectly synchronized, Lyra couldn't help but smile at how far they'd come. "Remember when I thought your methods were savage? And now?" Marcus asked, checking their weapons with practiced efficiency. "Now I think they're perfect," she replied, her violet eyes glowing with affection. "Just like everything else about you Terrans, raw, real, and exactly what the universe needs." The obsidian patterns pulsed with their shared excitement as they headed for the briefing room. Whatever challenges awaited them, they would face them together, their bond making them stronger than either could be alone. Their first mission as part of the task force brought Marcus and Lyra to a research facility on the edge of known space. Intelligence suggested multiple organizations were attempting to replicate their obsidian bond through increasingly dangerous experiments. The facility's exterior looked innocuous enough, but their enhanced senses told a different story. The obsidian patterns beneath their skin pulsed with warning as they approached. "They're trying to force the bond," Lyra said, her violet eyes narrowing. "We can feel the crystal's pain." Marcus nodded, his hand instinctively finding hers. Their patterns brightened at the contact, sending waves of warmth through their connected consciousness. "They don't understand. You can't force this kind of connection." Inside the facility, they discovered laboratories filled with failed attempts at crystal integration. Each failure resonated through their bond, making their own connection pulse stronger in response. "These fools are approaching it all wrong," Marcus muttered as they examined the research data. "They're treating it like technology to be conquered instead of a living entity to be understood." Lyra smiled, sending waves of affection through their bond. "Speaking from experience about not trying to conquer everything?" "Hey, I won you over with my crude charm, remember?" he teased back, their shared memories of their first meeting flooding their connection. Their banter was interrupted by the discovery of an active experiment chamber. Inside, researchers were attempting to forcibly bond crystals to unwilling subjects. The crystal's distress rippled through Marcus and Lyra's connection, nearly overwhelming them. Without hesitation, they moved to stop the experiments. Their enhanced abilities made them formidable opponents. Marcus's raw strength combined with Lyra's precision, multiplied by their perfect synchronization through the obsidian bond. During the fight, they discovered something unprecedented. When they touched certain ancient artifacts in the facility, their bond allowed them to activate and control them. The obsidian patterns on their skin resonated with each piece of technology, creating a harmonic connection. "It's like they're singing to us," Lyra marveled as they used an ancient defense system to contain the facility's security forces. "More like they're singing to our bond," Marcus replied, feeling the harmonics through their connection. "The crystals, the artifacts, they're all connected somehow." After securing the facility and its research data, they found a moment of quiet in an observation room overlooking the facility's crystal garden. The patterns on their skin pulsed in rhythm with the raw crystals below. "You know what this means," Lyra said, moving closer to Marcus. "We're not just special forces anymore. We're the key to understanding all of this ancient technology." Marcus pulled her into his arms, their patterns brightening at the contact. "As long as we're together, I don't care what we are." Though I have to admit, being the key to unlocking ancient alien mysteries is pretty impressive. Their bond hummed with shared emotion as they came together, their connection deepening with each touch. The obsidian patterns created beautiful light shows across their skin as they expressed their love in the most primitive and perfect way. Later, as they prepared to report their findings to Admiral Kovacs, Lyra caught Marcus staring at her. Through their bond, she felt his pride, his love, his absolute certainty that together they could face anything. "What are you thinking about?" she asked, though she could feel the general shape of his thoughts. "Just remembering how you used to think Terrans were nothing but brute force," he said with a grin. "Now look at us, the perfect blend of Terran instinct and stellar wisdom." "Perfect indeed," she agreed, sending waves of love through their bond. "Though I still think that bone repositioning technique was savage." "But effective," he reminded her, pulling her close for a quick kiss that sent their patterns spinning with light. Just like everything else about us Terrans. Their mission had revealed not just the dangers of forcing the obsidian bond, but also their unique ability to interface with ancient technology. It was a discovery that would change the course of their lives, and possibly the galaxy itself. The ancient defense network revealed itself through their evolving bond, each artifact they encountered adding to their understanding like pieces of a vast cosmic puzzle. But it wasn't just the network that was awakening. Their own abilities were growing in unexpected ways. Marcus noticed it first during a routine training session. The obsidian patterns on his skin suddenly flared, and he found himself moving with impossible speed and precision. Through their bond, Lyra felt his surprise and excitement. "The crystals are changing us," she said, her violet eyes wide with wonder as she watched him demonstrate his new abilities. "They're not just connecting us anymore, they're enhancing us." Their shared consciousness had deepened too. Now they could sense each other's presence across vast distances, their thoughts and emotions intertwining more completely than ever before. During a mission to activate another node in the defense network, they discovered the full extent of their evolution. The ancient control chamber hummed to life at their approach, the crystals in the walls resonating with their enhanced bond. "It's beautiful," Lyra breathed, watching the patterns of light dance across the chamber walls. The crystals on her skin pulsed in harmony with the ancient technology, creating a symphony of light and energy. Marcus stepped behind her, his arms encircling her waist. Their patterns brightened at the contact, and suddenly the entire chamber came alive with possibility. Through their enhanced connection, they could see the network as it was.